Good evening. My name's Kyle Heffner. For our project, me and my partner, Anthony Juarez, chose to analyze the coverage of CNN and Al Jazeera and how they compare the coverage of the FIFA corruption scandal, which has been developing over the last few months. We chose CNN as our American-based network and Al Jazeera as our international. We chose CNN because it seemed like the best American network. We chose Al Jazeera because it's a good source of international news and because it's one of the countries suspected of paying for its hosting rights to the 2022 FIFA games. We thought it would be interesting to see how the coverage of the investigating country compared to that of one of the suspected countries. Here is Anthony to give you more information on the scandal.
Near the end of May 2015, 14 people were indicted in connection with an investigation by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, otherwise known as the FBI, and the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation Division, into wire fraud, racketeering, and money laundering. The FIFA Corporation scandal consists of the board members having been bribed over $125 million within the last 25 years. The money that they have been bribed with has been used in swaying their minds about where this cash flow event will take place, otherwise known as the World Cup. The two nations being accused of buying votes are Qatar and Russia, and they are currently investigating who paid these bribes and which FIFA board members accepted them.
Leader of FIFA with another term, and instead Swiss police, working with the FBI and the IRS, came in and arrested up to 7 people are now arrested, top members of FIFA's board, and they include Jeffrey Webb, who's the FIFA vice president. Former vice president of FIFA, Jack Warner, is also among those who's now charged. 14 people in all are going to be charged today in Brooklyn, Chris. And this is an investigation that, according to the Justice Department, spans a couple of decades. And according to them, FIFA was being run as a criminal enterprise. So that's not something you usually hear about world soccer. According to them, $150 million in bribes were being paid to these officials, including a U.S. sportswear company that paid money to sponsor the Brazilian Soccer Federation. So there's a lot here going on, including a separate investigation now being done by the Swiss.
The coverage of the scandal by CNN, in my opinion, is fairly balanced and informational. Because this is still a developing story and the case is still under investigation, CNN hasn't given much time to the event. As new information comes to light, they add a report about the new information, but they don't spend a lot of time on it still. Although CNN doesn't have many reports on the scandal, when they do give a report, they focus on the facts and the new information to the story. In the reports I viewed and read, CNN seemed to just lay out the facts about who is being charged and what these people being charged means to the FIFA organization. During the reports, I noticed a bit of speculation as to whom else might end up being charged and to what extent the punishment and ramifications might be for these people's crimes, even though they don't have the facts to support this. Although there are small bits of speculation, most of the reports seem to focus on the facts, and in my opinion, this is because we are one of the countries investigating these accusations of bribery, racketeering, and fraud. Because we are one of the investigating countries, CNN is trying to duplicate this impartialness of an investigating organization by presenting the facts in an unbiased manner. Although Russia and Qatar are the nations accused of buying votes for their countries to host the World Cup tournament, the coverage seems to focus on the people who committed these crimes instead of the nations who bribed officials. Instead of focusing on the countries who paid for votes, they are focusing on the people who welcomed and accepted these bribes. And here's Anthony.
Thank you, Kyle. Now I'm going to discuss some of the issues that I saw with Al Jazeera's coverage of the FIFA corruption scandal. The main issue I have with Al Jazeera's coverage is the lack of any real news at all. There are hardly any articles or videos about the scandal, and the ones we came across were very abstract and didn't have very much information in them. They focus more on other aspects of the FIFA organization instead of the allegations some of their members are being charged with. In the video we are about to show you, you will see the interviewer asking the president of FIFA, Sepp Blatter, questions about the organization and what it does, instead of questions concerning the allegations against them. The whole interview is just information about the organization itself and not about any of the charges and allegations being brought against them. The reason we think Al Jazeera is essentially avoiding this story is most likely because of how close this story hits to home. Qatar is one of the two nations being accused of buying votes during the bidding process that gave them the opportunity to host the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Al Jazeera has a history of not reporting anything that represents their home nation of Qatar in a negative way.
In one of the offices of the president.
Speaking of home and house, FIFA has become, or it's been for a long time, a household name. But you're known mostly to be running the World Cup. You do many, many other things. What is it exactly that FIFA does?
The aim of FIFA is not only to develop this game and to organize competition, but to try to make a little bit a better world. In our perturbed world we are living now, football brings emotions and hope. Can you imagine that today in Syria and in Afghanistan they play football? They play organized football is played there with all the difficulties. In Iraq during the 5 years of this belligerent situation, they not only they played football, but the national team became Asian champions. Right. We play women's football in Palestine. Football is connecting people and bringing emotion and hope into our world.
When you say develop football, how do you go about doing that, and where do you do it?
209 national associations are member of FIFA. That's more than the United Nations. Organized football is now played.
The coverage of the FIFA corruption scandal between CNN and Al Jazeera is very different in one major way. CNN actually covered the scandal, explaining who is being charged with what, and what other future charges might be brought against other FIFA officials. They spent at least a small part of their broadcast updating the story, revealing new information that has surfaced. There were many articles and video segments about the event, giving as much information about the scandal as they had. On the other side, Al Jazeera basically avoided this story, only having a few articles about the event. In these articles, they avoided telling facts and stuck to an abstract view of the scandal. They avoid any accusations against Qatar or address any other issues concerning the scandal. In conclusion, we thought that differences between the two network coverages might exist, and that after our analysis of the coverage, we would like to think we were right. The news of the investigating nation was very extensive and factual, hitting all the key points, without withholding any information. Whereas the news of the accused nation was almost non-existent, only highlighting that it was a developing story without giving any information as to how it was developing. So it seems as if CNN is almost helping with the investigation, whereas Al Jazeera is completely ignoring it and preventing the spread of bad news about its home nation.